everybody, thanks for checking out this Overwatch video here on G4G. I'm your host Napalm Dawn, and today I'm doing a video on Overwatch and some balance items that I would like to see implemented in the game. Granted, these are for the most part simply my opinions based on my own time of playing the game, from the betas to live, and they do not necessarily represent a good majority of community ideas, although after discussing Overwatch with a lot of my close friends and just being aware of Overwatch in forums and in media circles, some of these points definitely have some merit and have some life outside of just being my own thoughts on it. So the first thing that I would like to talk about is Torbjorn, and that is these stupid turrets over here. The turrets have two quick... See, there you go. It was shooting at this direction and then went right up and shot at the ones that are on the catwalk. Now, this is standard practice for Torbjorn's turrets. There you go again, 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock instantly. And with the stupid 20 tick rate that these servers have, or your client has, I should say, that 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 180 results in excessive damage that you have no chance on. So if we want to take a similar product to Overwatch and say TF2's NG turrets. When an NG drops a turret in TF2, even when it's upgraded, it has a somewhat slower acquisition time, especially when it has to rotate. Like, that would never happen in TF2. That 180 is way too quick. And because of the major annoyance of Torbjorn turrets, I thought, man, it just needs to have slower acquisition, period. Well, in all honesty, that might be too much of a nerf. If you slowed them down to, say, TF2 speed, you may find that that's a bit too slow, and Torbjorn players would get upset. But my middle ground on it is turrets can go ahead and acquire in a 45-degree angle from where they are currently aiming. So, for example, if this turret is aiming at that trading bot over there and it was lined up and that's 12 o'clock, the turret can nearly instantly acquire from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. So basically, that training bot, maybe something over that way, and maybe those bots would be the extent of Soldier 76 aimbot snapping. When you upgrade the turret during its ultimate, then maybe that restriction can be removed. Which means that makes it even more tactical for Torbjorn to go ahead and use his ultimate. It's not just about doing more damage, but you are unlocking the turret's full rotation speed. And that's something that I would like to see happen to the Torbjorn turrets. I think the way they are now, they are way too snappy. And their distance is way, way too far. I want to move this one way back in this corner over here. Now that catwalk one should be out of range. Or just at the tail end of the turret's range. But let's see if that thing gets killed. Yep, there it is. There's the acquisition of it. It's so far away. Let's drop it here and see if it can acquire the robot when it goes all the way down. Actually, is that an angle issue or is that a distance issue? Let's see. That might be an angle issue at that spot. I'm gonna have to check that out. See if that's an angle issue or a distance issue. Okay, so that might be a bit of an angle issue with the pillar. Let's see, where does it acquire it? So it stops right around there. Yeah, that might be a bit of a distance issue. And that's actually surprising. It seems like in-game, at this distance, I would be getting hit by that turret. Especially due to the distance. Torbjorn's turrets, I think, need a tiny bit of a distance nerf, which then allows the Hanzos and the Widowmakers and the Pharahs a little bit of a better chance at getting it. Let's see, if I was to... I don't think it's an angle. I think that one is actually distance. I'm surprised, because it feels like in-game, the turret would still be hitting that robot, even at its turnaround point. Let's just doubly make sure it's not an angle issue. It could still be angle. It might be trying to acquire a lower part of the robot than you would think. Armoring the turret would be funny. But yeah, I think Torbjorn's turrets need to have a slightly nerfed acquisition range. If it's facing 12 o'clock on the clock from 10 to 2, it can snap, but it can't go 10 to 6 like this. I mean, from this angle to that angle, instantly is just ridiculous. And I think it does make the Torbjorn turrets considerably too powerful. Testing the headshots there. So that's one of the changes that I would like to see happen. The distance, I have to play around with a little bit more. It feels like when I'm actually playing a game, they acquire way too far out, but I definitely think the angles need to be fixed. So now my next balance item that I want to talk about is Symetra. If you start to place a turret, you will notice I'm not Hanzoing here as he tries to ready an arrow. I am running at full speed, but then the moment I place the turret, I take about 2.5 steps of being like in tar. It's like running, I'm running full speed, and I'm back. I don't understand why there is that slowness after she places the turrets. Now, if she got it before she placed the turrets, because Symetra is ordered and precise, I can imagine her being slowed slightly so that she can concentrate on the turret placement. But once the turret is actually placed, she should then be at full speed. So if we take another Blizzard game as an example for it, if I'm Gazlowe and I'm in World of Warcraft, and this bot is chasing me here, I'm like, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, drop a turret, and he now has to contend with following me through my turrets. But here with Symetra, it's like, oh god, this Reaper's chasing me, and now the Reaper's totally caught up to me, and I'm dead. And, as you can see here, I don't even have the range. This one should have range. Yeah, so that one's got range. So, like, Gazlo can panic drop turrets, and then the other person chasing Gazlo has to contend with that. But Symetra, that's not really an option because of how slow it makes her. So, panic dropping a turret to cover yourself if you know you're not going to win the fight is not a viable strategy. And to be honest, I mean, look at the distance with her, which Zarya is a bit better. See, that is not hitting that bot. Now it is. I have to be this close. That's just a hair out of melee range. So I think for Symetra's protection, I need to be able to drop turrets and run. And be like, oh, okay, you want to follow me around this corner, and it's that extra slowness that makes panic dropping just not work. And I don't understand the reason for it. I can understand this being slow, because Symetra is precise and ordered, and she's going to want to take her time. But after it's dropped, I just don't feel she needs to be slowed. So one thing that I would do would be totally get rid of the slow after dropping a turret. If that's too overpowered, and people think, well, and Symetra's just gonna bait like crazy at that point. And she's just gonna bait people into going around corners and go plop, 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 and drop turrets. Okay, then make this part a little bit slow, and then have her released afterwards. Because this way, like, if somebody's chasing you around the corner, you don't want to prep it, just bang, go, and full speed. So that's a balance item that I would like to see happen for Symetra. Now, the next one that I want to talk about is Reaper. And as a fairly common Pharah player, this one bothers me a great deal about Reaper. One interesting thing, I'm going to aim right at this staircase over here and aim at this railing. And I nail both. I mean, that's crazy. And that were headshots there at the end. When Reaper does his ultimate, if you look closely, it doesn't seem like he has that big of a vertical component on it. By the way, he's one of the best people for reload cancels. Because pretty much the instant he starts reloading, you can melee and you can get a whole reload cancellation there. Now watch what happens during his ultimate. Maybe 3 of his shots have any bit of a vertical component. Like 2 of them went up at 10 and like 1 of them went up at 3 or 1 o'clock. As a Pharah player, if I'm standing here and right over here goes Mei with her Freezy ultimate, I'm straight up in the air. And I'm out of it, and I'm not affected by it, and I'll just like float to the bridge, wait until everything's over, and maybe rain down Swift Justice from above. If Reaper does it, and I go straight up on Pharah, not only do I take damage, I take enough to be killed every single time. And there needs to not be that vertical component to Reaper, because his animation certainly doesn't match. And I think somebody who is a smart Pharah player, but maybe hasn't had that many circumstances of trying to get out of a Reaper ult, the first thing is going to be get up in the air. I mean, Roadhog. You hear Roadhog straight up in the air. Junkrat's tired, straight up in the air. May, up in the air. Zarya, you gotta get up in the air close, because the moment you're sucked into that, you're screwed. Like, it's already done. You can't get out of that. Got You in My Sights by Soldier 76. Going straight up is probably a good way to go, because Soldier's more aimed, like probably aiming at things here and not really doing that, and probably not ever doing this. But this, with Pharah on Reaper, results in hits that result in death. And that is garbage, because there's not really that much of a vertical component to his ultimate. See, there's a couple that go off that way, and maybe one that goes that way, but it doesn't look like anything goes this way. And believe me, I've been this against the Reaper before. I think they need to nerf his vertical component to his ultimate. And it gives people an escape from it. Sure, you kill the Reaper, and you will escape from it no matter what angle you're at. But that's not always a possibility, and if a Reaper, you know, jumps down, or falls down from over here, and lands in ultimates, a Pharah should be able to go whoop, straight up in the air, and avoid it. So that is a balance that I would like to see happen with Reaper. I think the straight vertical component needs to go away. And I think, at best, maybe that's about as far up that he can reach. That's about the furthest angle his ultimate can go. Not this, and certainly not that. Now, granted, there's always been a lot of people saying his ultimate is based on the Death Blossom from Last Starfighter, which was a great little movie in the 80s. When I was a kid. There was a red button, I think it was red, there was a button in the Starfighter, the whole movie, that was like, don't touch it, don't touch it. Finally, at the end, when he's completely surrounded, they hit the button to save themselves, and lasers everywhere, and it just wipes everything out. Well, it makes sense for a spaceship to have it. I mean, 6 degrees of freedom. Yeah, I mean, that's friggin' Death Blossom makes sense there. Here, it just doesn't. And if you consider that he's placing thought to each one of those angles and everything like that, why, when the majority of people are going to be at this angle, would he even consider shooting up that way? Die, 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 die. I mean, like, what? It doesn't make sense. So that is definitely a balance item that I would like to see happen for Reaper. I think his vertical component to his ultimate needs to go. Now, there's a lot that has been made lately about Widowmaker and Hanzo. And that is the hitboxes on things, especially the headshot hitbox. So, the arrow comes out at the top point of the crosshair over here, centered on that little period, and then weaker shots go lower. So a full shot should be at the end right now. So that's not killing the robot, surprisingly. If we go down a little bit more, headshot and death. Perfect. That's not where his head is. His head does not extend to the bottom of that end. It also does not exist that far. That's a miss right there. That should be a miss. But it's not. Okay, that's a miss. That's a hit. Not a headshot. Not a hit. Not a headshot. Not a hit. Headshot, hit. This is something that has existed for a long time. And this is something that old UTers and Quake players are definitely used to. In the UT days, be it 2K3, 2K4, or UT99, we had custom skins, especially under UT99. There were custom skins that people would make if they were uploaded to a server or a download host that would host files for servers and whatnot, be it maps or mods or skins and everything like that. There were female skins, there were male skins, and they all had different visual sizes. And it was always believed, especially in the Instagib community and the sniper community, that you would want to play as a female model because they were harder to hit. The truth is, they were not. They just tricked the eye better. In the UT days, there would be a rectangle around this robot. A volume box around this actor. So this training bot is an actor. There would be a volume that would go and stop right below the text, come over here, come down about this far, go below his feet, come up, and so on. So that if you were to aim here, you were not hitting the model, but as you can see here, I'm still hitting the hitbox. The rectangle around the actor. So in the UT days, it was believed that it was harder to hit females because they visually occupied less of the hitbox. The truth is, any part of the hitbox is in fair game. People are rediscovering this with Overwatch. And there's definitely been videos up on YouTube of completely obstructed actors and still getting hits. Okay, so that zoom by him, that was a kill. And it shouldn't have been. There's another hit. Like, that should not be hitting his arms. So right now, I have a little bit of an advantage in this fight. If somebody's coming out of that, let's say that's an arch, and I'm waiting for somebody to come out, and it's like Winston's gun, which leads him quite a bit. Boom, I've hit the Winston. And he probably can't hit me. When he, as a projectile person, has the ability to fire and get out of the way, and we have to deal with these hitboxes, that's a problem. It needs to be more clear to the community of Overwatch that there are hitboxes around these things, and the actor fills out the hitbox, but so much. Now, it was much easier in the Quake and UT days because everything was relatively the same size. It was believed that Zan filled out the hitbox the most in UT99, and all the female models filled it out the least. And most of the male models, except for the Scars, were in between. Well, obviously in Overwatch, that's not the case. My Hanzo is not the same size as a Reinhardt or a D.Va. Widowmakers love D.Va because... God, wow, her damage is awful at range. She's so big. Earlier today I was playing with my girlfriend. We went up against an all D.Va team. She was Widowmaker, and I mean, she was like a kid in New York City at Christmas time. I mean, it was just like plink, plink, plink. Obviously, there are, I would think, degrees of models in this game. And I think the big ones would go to Bastion, D.Va, Reinhardt, Winston, and Roadhog. The very small ones go to Mercy and Symetra, D.Va out of her suit, Tracer, not really Genji, and not Mei, but Widowmaker. So we have the big, we have the tiny, and then we have the everything in between of, say, Zarya, Soldier, Reaper, Pharah, McCree. maybe potentially a fourth model that fits May and Lucio and Torbjorn, which is not as tall, but still just as wide. No offense, waifu Mays. So there's possibly 3 or 4 hitboxes in the game right now. And I think people need to get used to the fact that hitboxes does not equal actor size. And that this robot over here is not smaller than, say, the May and Lucio models. Even though it looks like it is, it isn't. That's weird. So I was aiming my hook up towards the letters, and I hooked them right in the heart. Let's try this. Aiming at the end. Wow. That's interesting. That's another thing that needs to stop. If you have obstruction... Alright, so that time it didn't work. But when you have a definite obstruction, it needs to drop you out of the hook. There's too often, and I as a Roadhog player see this. I mean, no. That bot should not have come to me. He has to get around this wall and that barrel for that angle. Okay, so that was a miss. Aim a little lower, a little closer. That was a miss. This one's probably going to be a hit. Yeah, see, that right there should not be a drag. I think, especially on non-rounded edges, for Roadhog's grips, he needs to get blocked. Like, he needs to be denied by that. And that's something that needs to basically not happen. I wonder if... Yeah, I don't think Roadhog's ever going to make those platforms. Didn't wind up jumping me. So that's one thing that I think needs to be fixed. And especially, again, with the tick rate, when you see yourself totally not getting hit by the hook, and then you see the death cam, and you're like, dude, how was I so exposed when he hooked me? That's the tick rate. I wonder if I can jump. I want to try to jump and snag this one. Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. That's another function of tick rate, is that when you land hooks that the person had already, you know, gone behind cover, that seems ridiculous. And I could swear at one point, minor blockages, like from this angle, would result in a partial hook. That he would get stuck on the barrel or the lip over there, and it wouldn't execute. So those are basically the things that I would like to see fixed in the game. The tick rate definitely has to go up to 60. I mean, that right there is just competitive shooter logic. I mean, some people say, like, CS and everything plays at 120. That might be a little much. And Overwatch is definitely passing some pretty solid code. But 60 needs to be a definite. Servers need to transmit up and down at 60, and your client needs to have a setting that says, if you experience latency issues, check this box. And behind the scenes, what that is okay, we'll turn off 60 tick, and then we will go ahead and drop you to the older 20. training needs to not kick you out. If I want to be filming a video in training, it should not say game. That's another thing that I think needs to be balanced. If somebody's doing some hardcore work, that needs to be fixed. So right now the way it is custom games can be set to 60 tick. Okay, that's great for competitive on LANs, and that's great for esports and everything like that. But the designer has come out and said, once again, these are not the droids you were looking for. He's like, this isn't the problem you think it is. What he was trying to say is, yeah, sure, maybe in your kill cam, it looks like the Roadhog who was around the corner hit you, because that's who you're seeing at the end of your kill cam, but in reality, the Farrer who was straight above you and hit you for 99% of the damage is actually the one who killed you. He's trying to blame it on that, but the point is, from Bastion, from Torbjorn turrets, from Soldier 76, from sometimes Widowmakers and Hanzos, we are definitely taking damage when we are seeing ourselves behind cover. I have been around a corner and 2 feet upstairs when I continue to get damage. Not just damage being reported, it's the hit sound and the damage. That's because for the other client, I apparently was still visible to that Bastion or that Torbjorn turret, even though on my screen I wasn't. That's ping compensation. That's server-side hit detection as compared to client-side hit detection. It needs, at 60 tick rate, that is more balance between server and client. And it's just a near given for everything else. I mean, in the Unreal days, especially on the Linux-based hosts, you could adjust the tick. And everybody wanted to always play on the good tick servers because miniguns and plasma rifles would do more damage, especially the beam on a plasma rifle. So rather than the server calculating your damage at a 20 tick rate of, say, calculate, at 60 tick it was like calculate, so you would get extra hits in. We came out of that era of gaming used to 60 tick rate. They need to turn it on with an option to kick it down on your client if you want. They need to make sure they have data centers in South America that services things south of Mexico, so that we don't have to deal with the crappy Brazilians and Peruvians and Argentinians lagging their way around Overwatch like they do every free-to-play game on the planet that we all complain about. Africans are complaining that their data center goes up to Europe. There clearly needs to be some kind of a data center, at least in middle to northern Africa. I'd say India deserves a data center. And if Africa's going up to Europe, probably a good chunk of Russia is going up over there rather than Asia. I think they need to get something, I don't know, maybe the western to western central area of Russia, India, and Australia, and definitely something in Japan. That seems to be the fairest for them to do. Now, I don't know about Blizzard's WoW servers in those areas. I can tell you that I am familiar with the fact that they have a Brazilian data center for WoW, because when all the Brazilians were on Warsong, Blizzard said, we know you're having a rough time, we're just going to create a data center with like 5 or 6 servers down in Brazil, and that's when everybody migrated off of those servers and went to the Brazilian ones, which is unfortunately in my battle group, so I have to deal with them. But that's what, honestly, those are the balances that I would like to see. 60 tick rate, fix Torbjorn's turret snapping to be 45 degrees at maximum speed. Anything over 45 is slower. Possibly give it max speed back during his ultimate, Molten Core. Fix the hitboxes to conform a little bit more towards the model, or make it very, very clear that there is a wireframe around skins that you can't see. We knew this in UT, but we don't know this in Overwatch. It's never been declared. Symetra needs to not be slow after plopping a turret. If it's too powerful for her to do the whole thing at full speed, make the placement of it slow. If she has her, I'm going to do this here, out, then maybe make her a little bit slow, like Hanzo queuing up an arrow. But certainly not afterwards. Give her the ability to, like, plop a turret and plop a turret on the run so that maybe she has a chance of escape. And we really got to get the hit detection fixed. It's really tiring to think that you are behind cover and you still take 2 additional shots of a Torbjorn turret and you're dead when you didn't expect to be. So let me know what you guys think below. If you disagree or if you agree, comment. Let's make this popular. See you, everybody.